Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host. Got to fix my eyebrows because they're like in my face. Crazy eyebrows. My goodness. It has been a minute since I've recorded. I've had my business partner staying in my basement for the last 3 weeks, which also happens to be my studio. So, giving the respect, giving the space, giving the time, letting him down there. This is why I have buffers. I have several previously recorded. I think I had 10 weeks of buffer prior to him coming, which I did on purpose. I try and maintain a high level north of 7 weeks of buffer time, which means when I record this, it comes out 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 weeks after recording. One, it's super cool that I get to listen to these episodes, which, by the way, are answers to many questions that I have in the future. Think about that one and the dichotomy there in answering my own questions. So cool. But two, it allows life to happen. Conversely, my wife and I have a podcast, and we have to record that every single week. We used to have a buffer, and with the pregnancy, not so easy to maintain the buffer. So we're always recording, which means we have to get it done versus right now, I choose when I want to record and when I don't. How often in life are you doing this? Are you allowing space for life to occur? Are you allowing for flexibility and this influx and this ebb and flow of whatever it might be? You may just find you will have more efficiency with your time. You'll have more peace with your time. You will feel less chaotic in this chaotic world. How important that is. But one thing I wanted to talk about with today's episode is change, specifically in regards to sleep. It has been interesting as I've paid attention and we've prepared for our daughter to arrive. And by the time this episode comes out, she will have arrived. We're that close, which is super cool. We're super excited to have her here. It has been a long road coming, almost 3 years. But as we've been preparing, I was a little bit more intentional with effort, with time, with how I go about doing things. As for those that have listened to this podcast for any duration of time, I have been a fairly early riser for the better part of 15 years. I've been 4:30 to 4:45 has been my average wake-up time. There was stints in my life where that wake-up time was 3:30 and never really past 5 or 5:30. 5:30 is about the latest I've ever woken up on a regular basis in that 15, maybe even 20 years. With all that in mind, previously I kind of had to go get up that early. If I wanted to get to the gym or I wanted to have some me time before I went to my corporate job, I had to get up that early before kids got up, before anything took place. And with our first child, I was working insane hours. So with our family, I take the first shift with a baby, which means I go to bed at 10, 11, 12 p.m. And then Michaela, my wife, can pick up in the middle of the night and do feedings. So I can sleep and then work throughout the day. Because back then, I did not have the ability to take naps. So Michaela could take naps whenever our kids were sleeping. Baby number 2 came around. And it was much of the same situation. I still worked 9 to 5 / 6:30 to 9:30. I was working a lot of hours. So if I wanted me time, I wanted the gym, I had to do it before the world woke up. AKA I got up at those times at 3:30 or 4. That is not sustainable, by the way. Only sleeping a few hours a night, operating on a 20-hour day or so. For me, at least, that is not sustainable. I would get sick, I would have problems, and I would just be a zombie for 6 to 12 months. And just get through knowing that it was a short season and knowing that at some point it would end. This time is a little bit different. It's now been 4 years almost since our last child. I have not been in corporate world for 3.5 years. And it's been awesome. But I get to make my own schedule, get to do my own thing. I have maintained that early schedule all the way up until approximately 6 weeks ago. We decided to change things up. My wife had a fall at 28 and a half weeks pregnant, which means she got put on semi bed rest. Because of this and because of the energy and the sickness from being pregnant and all these things, it's been a really difficult pregnancy for her. I needed to get home earlier from the gym and help get our boys awake, which they're early risers. They wake up at about 5:30 most days, have their whole life. They can probably blame me for that. But I needed to get home, get them ready for school, and then multiple days a week, I take them into school / every day. We alternate. Depends on how my wife is feeling. But it turned into, and we realized with the 2 kids, school now, because before we didn't have school. So with school and getting ready and all these things, it was just wisdom. It was wise for me. There was wisdom. That's what I'm trying to say. For me to stay home and not go to the gym at 5 in the morning and to shift my schedule. So we gave ourselves 10 weeks to adjust circadian rhythms, to plan accordingly, to go to bed at approximately the same time right now, but get up at 6 a.m. as opposed to 4:45. That increased my sleep duration by a considerable amount. I was usually getting between 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep. Now I'm getting between 8 and 8.5 hours. Sometimes if I go to bed early enough, 9 hours of sleep. Roll this back 10 years ago, 15 years ago. If I tried to sleep for 8.5 to 9 hours, I would have been overslept. I would have been overly tired because I slept too long. I'm one of those people that if I sleep too least amount, too short or too long, I am tired either way. I'm pretty lethargic. But this time around, being a decade to a decade and a half older, that's not the case. I was just somewhat dragging all the time at 6.5 hours, which used to be kind of a sweet spot for me. Now I'm getting 8.5 hours. And I find I am much, much more rested. I find that I am more awake, more alert. I don't need naps throughout the day like I did before. I can just operate quickly and efficiently. I'll take naps if I have time and if I need a little 15-minute pick-me-up. But what I'm getting at is time changes things. Age changes things. I had this preconceived notion and ideology that I could not sleep that long because it'd make me tired, even though I felt unrested at my normal sleep pattern, which previously I felt rested. It took major life shift to learn that I do better on more sleep now as I've gotten older. I have a variety of things going on. I've got multiple kids. I've got multiple businesses. Physically, I am just thicker as a human. I weigh more because I have more muscle mass than I did a decade ago. There are all these different things that compile into my body at this moment in time requiring more rest. And there's nothing wrong with that. So much of my life, I would identify as somebody that got up extra early. Now, most of the world still deems 6 a.m. pretty early. But I was extra early. I was awake before the early risers. And I kind of prided myself in that. I was able to get journaling, reading, fitness, a gallon of water, all these things done before most of the world woke up at 7 a.m. But that identity has shifted. One of resource, one of getting as much rest as possible because I value rest. We live in this world of hustle and bustle where if you're not grinding 27 hours a day, you're slacking. How efficient can you be if you are suffering in your sleep? You are tired through the day. You're needing caffeine. That's another thing that I dropped off. I used to be consuming 700 plus milligrams of caffeine a day just to function, just to stay awake and keep going. And then I'd crash in the evening. And that was normal for me to take a 10, 15, 20-minute nap at 5 or 6 p.m. just so I can play with my kids. I now consume my pre-workout only has 100 milligrams of caffeine, if I even take caffeine at all. And during the day, I might have another 100 or 200 milligrams. So my peak milligram dosage of caffeine is about 300 any given day. It's usually closer to 100 to 200 for the whole day, which is, again, a fraction of what it was. Go figure. Now, if I take about 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine, I crash. I was learning that I was always riding off of a crash from caffeine. That's why I was taking it so much. I was thinking because I was burning so hot. Reality was I was just falling off of caffeine constantly. It is amazing how we change things in life with intention. I had the intention of getting more rest. We should be resting more or less 8 hours, which is 1/3 of your life. That 1/3 of your life dictates the other 2/3 and the efficiency thereof. If you really contemplate the magnitude and priority that rest needs to have, you'd be a little more intentional about it. We've changed our beds. We've changed our sleep schedules. We've changed our nutrition. We've changed tons of things to magnify our ability to rest. Because the better rest we get, the better we perform during the day. I want you to analyze your life. I want you to look at your life and see what has changed. What have you been doing the last 10, 15, 20 years and just done it on repeat because it's just a habit and it's just what you do? It's just a part of your routine. And start challenging it. Ask, does this still serve me today? Does this still bring me resource today? Or is there a superior option at this moment in time? Now it can definitely shift again in a year or 2 or 5 or 10. But you should constantly be challenging and questioning what you've been doing and does it still serve you? If it does, cool, keep going. But if there is a better way, I encourage you to try it for a period of time, whatever that is, and how important it is to continually grow, continually challenge, continually question. That's how we think outside of the box. That is how we stretch ourselves beyond staying in the same monotonous life. Have this conversation with your friends and family. Share this episode with those people you find or feel that would find it valuable. Find me on social, Mr. Brad Draper. You can find me everywhere. Let's have a conversation. Leave me a review. Wherever you listen to this, I can always grow. And I only grow because you share it. So, like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.